Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to this special presentation offered to you by Casa Italiana Zerilli-Marimò at New York University and the Center for Contemporary Opera. We are delighted to partner with the Center for Contemporary Opera to present to you this brand new opera composed by our composer in residence, Roberto Scarcella Perino, with the libretto by Mark Campbell. We were supposed to offer you the real thing, the performance just this past summer here in Florence, where I actually am, at Villa La Pietra, the center of New York University in Florence. But of course, due to the pandemic emergency, that program was botched, but not the idea of offering you the full staging of the opera once time will permit. But we decided with Francesca Campagna, the general director of the Center for Contemporary Opera, to offer you this presentation because we believe that being part of this process of the creation of is almost as good at seeing the completed work. We have a wonderful panel along with the composer and the librettist. We have a singer, a violinist, and of course we have Francesca Campagna. So the idea for this opera is a fantastic idea. It raised from a real fact that happened in Cremona, the city that you see right behind me, the city where I went to high school that I know very well. And I don't want to tell you anything about what triggered the opera because that's something that I want Mark and Roberto to tell you about. But I think it's a fantastic idea to have an opera dedicated to a moment of silence. Already that, you gotta love the paradox. And as I told you, we are bringing this moment to you, this moment inside the birth, the conception of an opera with the Center for Contemporary Opera. As you know, Casa dedicates a lot of energies, resources to the promotion of opera as the quintessential form of Italian art. And of course, we have Adventures in Italian Opera with Fred Plotkin. We have the Opera Club for students and young adults. They all concentrate on the repertoire of Italian opera. But we also want to give the idea that opera is not a dead art form, is alive and kicking. And people are still writing opera, and they're still writing great operas like the one we are presenting tonight. And of course, that's exactly the mission of the Center for Contemporary Opera, to perpetuate this tradition, to keep it alive, and to bring it to new generations. So we are delighted to partner with the Center for Contemporary Opera on this specific presentation, and it's my great pleasure to invite Francesca Campagna, the General Director of the Center, to greet you and introduce this evening event. Thank you. Francesca.
Hi, Stefano. Thank you for this wonderful introduction. And then it's always beautiful feeling home with the Casa Italiana that has this special attention to the music, in particular to opera. As you well said, it's important to promote opera to the community, but in this case, my mission with the Center for Contemporary Opera is to promote also artists, that living artists who are working and creating new subjects. I start to talk with Roberto and Mark about sharing a project together, and then when they offered this idea, I was very happy to join and be part of this project that was commissioned by NYU Florence. And then that Center for Contemporary Opera hoped one day to produce the full stage here in New York. And then the message behind this wonderful story that you will know more later, it's exactly one part of our mission, because the new mission of a CCO is focusing on subject of social relevance. And in this case, I found that in this particular moment for all of us, to understand that silence is part of our life that can give occasion to think about many stuff. And in this case, silence is the key of behind this beautiful story and fun story. And then to partner with Casa Italiana Zerilli-Marimò is very important because talk about a city that has this such wonderful history connected to the history of music and focus on, of course, the history of these beautiful instruments that is the violin. And this is also why we invited today one of the best violinists, young violinists in Italy. But I think that to give more the sense of what we are talking about is the best way to leave the floor to our wonderful and beloved artists that are with us. And then I like to invite Roberto Scarcella Perino, the composer, and Mark Campbell, the librettist, to explain to us and tell us more about A Sweet Silence in Cremona.
Ciao Francesca, grazie, and ciao Mark.
How are you?
Very good.
You are in New York. I see your apartment.
Yes, this is my apartment. Where are you in this moment?
I'm in Fire Island.
Oh,
you can see the ocean behind me. It's a beautiful
yes,
sea.
it's beautiful.
No, it's cold and beautiful here, and I'm working. And we should talk about the opera.
For sure.
I guess we should. I think that's why people are here. I will start and just kind of talk about the story. They're more interested in you because you're the composer and you're Italian and I'm a dumb American. Although not so dumb, we just had a good election. This opera started, Roberto and I met many years ago, I think in the 1800s or something. And we got along very well. And I loved listening to Roberto's music because it has such a strong sense of melody. He likes to tell a beautiful musical story. And it's not that common. I've worked in opera quite a while, but I should get to the story. We had tried to figure out something for us to work on. And then I read this story in the New York Times about the mayor of Cremona imposing a moratorium on the city against noise, against any sound, while the violins, while they were being tuned because they were going to be recorded for posterity. So the mayor imposed a moratorium on sound and noise in the city. And I thought, oh, this is a great situation. This is a rich situation. This is a funny situation. To ask people in a city to be quiet, I'm a New Yorker, so I know how absurd that idea is. So I started thinking of a story that took place in an apartment building right near the museum where these violins were being recorded. And just thought of a few characters who might have lived in this building. It's a purely fictional story. And then to kind of add a twist to the story at the end, we decided to show what it was like to have the luthier, someone who takes care of the violin, actually play it and have the voice of the violin be a singer. So that the story is sort of lifted from something that's funny and a little quotidian and maybe a little pedestrian. It is something that says a little bit more about the power of music and even the power of silence. Roberto loved the idea. I came up with the premise. I kind of gave him an outline and I wrote the libretto and then I handed it to Roberto. So talk about the music.
And so at the beginning, to have an opera written about silence scared me. My reaction was, oh my God, I'm going to write a big rest from the beginning of the end. But then, of course, Mark's story was really, really beautiful. And the message was how you need silence to hear the music, and not just music, also emotions and everything that you have to be a good listener thanks to the silence. So the story, when I read the libretto for the first time, there were some parts that, of course, gave me a lot of emotion, and I start to write that part. So Marx actually works with a lot of composer. I don't, I work with librettists. And he was explaining to me how the different composers react to his librettos. So there are composers that are very, they start from the first word and they finish to the last word. So they continue. And he explained better. So you explained me that I work on, and it's true, on the heart of the story. So I like to take like what emotions start like with my belly, you know. So I with the heart of the story and start to build everything before and after. And there is a part in the story where finally, like the listening, the sound of violin became like after this long wait of this sound arrive, and the world has imagined the music. And when I read this part, it was so emotional for me, and I started to write this part. And then I built all the music from this melody. Of course, the best part of the writing was to have Mark beside me all the time. That it was an experience for me unusually and beautiful, because I need always to have a listener when I create. I don't like to create everything and then just, okay, listen to, and how is that? During the process, I like a confirmation, like somebody that say, you know, that react to what I'm writing. And the best part of the process was actually the rewriting. With Mark, we did a lot of rewriting of the story, because both of us agree that everything can be said in a better way. And there was a lot of communication through WhatsApp, mainly. So we were reading a lot of, you know, writing a lot of time. Mark is absolutely a person that knows music very well. I would say that he's a musician. So he totally knows perfectly how to use the adjective to make me understand what was in the character and also in the story. So the rewriting to arrive to a point where we were both of us satisfied about the final product for final art. This story that Mark was explaining is also written in a beautiful way, because it's like to enter in a museum to see paintings. Each character has his own story. So the structure is really beautiful, and each character has his own structure. So the areas that he presented to me, they were already telling us the story of the characters. So for me was writing, I was thinking like major areas like Mi chiamano Mimì or Che gelida manina, where the characters introduce themselves and they tell their stories. And this happened with this character that he showed to me, like since the beginning. He has seen that, you know, he will tell you more about the character, or Valentina, or Ettore. Then we have another pregnant woman, that's Julia, that our singer Jessica Fishenfeld, she will sing for us tonight. So, and then finally at the end, after you know them, you like them, you love them, or you hate them, it depends on the situation, you see them interact together. Another thing about the opera that I loved, Mark gave me a lot of space to express music. Like the finale, this is yours. This is the moment where the violin and the soprano will sing. So here, you know, it's a moment where music speaks. There is a part also, a stage moment where the actors, they fix their apartment at the beginning. So we decide also to have just kind of an intermezzo that is that happen, you know, after the prologue of the story. So I want to ask Mark to tell us a little bit about each characters of the story. Also, you know, describe them with adjectives.
Well, sure. The opera has 6 performers, and it has eight characters, right? Two performers double. The character that Roberto already mentioned a few characters, but the character that really ties things together is the character of Yasin. He is an immigrant who, second generation immigrant, who has arrived in Italy, and his job is basically to deliver flowers to Julia in the apartment building where they all share, and that's basically his job. He connects all of these stories, and I chose an immigrant to do that because an immigrant who loves Italy, by the way, loves everything Italian, and I thought it was very important. I think that's where our two cultures connect, Italy and the U.S. and many cultures around the world, where we want to figure out how to deal with refugees and immigrants to our countries, and to make the society work with them. And so I thought that was a nice connection between our two countries. Yassine is a young man. He's ambitious. I adore him. He's funny and strong, and he has one moment of sadness where he talks about his parents and the difficult decision to move to Italy. The first person he meets, it's Ettore, yes? Okay, I almost said Ettore. Ettore owns a shop on the first floor, and it's a shoe store. And he's not doing so well since this moratorium on silence, because women are not buying high heels or anything that makes sound on the pavement, on the cobblestones in Cremona. So he's just kind of selling tennis shoes, and he really regrets it. The name of his shoe store is Scarpe Diem, and I actually saw that name in Agrigento when Roberto and I were driving around Sicily many years ago. And I went, oh, that is such a name. I'm going to have to remember that for this libretto. So he owns a shoe store. Another character in this apartment building is Valentina. Valentina is kind of a young woman. She's spoiled. She's trendy. She unfortunately has a dog that she loves very much named Attila. And as you can imagine, Attila is rather tyrannical and will not allow Valentina to go to her yoga class. Of course, she has a yoga class. That actually is an interesting story because Attila arrived later in the libretto. There was something missing in the Valentina scenes, and then I think Roberto suggested, why don't we add a dog? And my first reaction was like, oh God, that's going to be so damn cute. But what if the dog is not cute? Then it's not cute. So we have a very funny comic scene with Valentina and Attila. Further up is Julia, and Julia is pregnant, and I mean very pregnant, and unfortunately her husband is away, and so she's worried that she's going to have to conceive a child during this moratorium on silence. Not the best time to conceive a child, not only because of her possible loud noises, but because of the ambulance that might have to pick her up to take her to the hospital. So this is the least convenient time for her to have a child. Finally, there's a woman named Mariolina, and she's on the top floor, and she's an elderly woman who really loves the silence. She does not have to listen to bad singers, street singers singing Puccini out on her sidewalk anymore. And she even says the rather daring thing of like, if this is my last day on the planet, it's not so bad. God can take me away on this day because it's a beautiful day and there's silence and I've lived life long enough. So there's a little bit of sadness in that. All good comedy in opera, especially, has sadness in it. That's what makes it work, I think. So those are the main characters in this apartment building. And then we kind of shift the story over to the museum where a violin has been recorded. And that's when we look at the story of the luthier and the violin itself. And I would say that is the moment in the opera where it's kind of Mozartian, where everyone is united by music, and music being the spirit of humans, of what we share together and what we can find together if we actually listen to music, what it is telling us and what we can learn from it, our shared bonds. That's the whole story, man. I think that was 4 hours
Yes,
long.
it was perfect. No, the music is the healer to everybody's problems in this case, and is represented by the violin that is in Cremona. So the orchestration, we decided to do a chamber orchestra, so very, very, very small. So it's divided in the strings that, of course, we have the violin as a protagonist, but the viola and the cello and the bass. And then I have also the flute, the oboe, we corno inglese, and then we have the clarinet and the bass clarinet and the bassoon. So we have like 4 instruments. So a very silent orchestra in a way, very, very chamber orchestra. Also the idea of the chamber, of the apartments and the intimacy of each one. In this, at the end of the story, you can see that you have characters that are super comics, but also characters that are like more serious in a certain way, with some moment of your seriousness. So it's making like the opera comic, but also makes you think about life and many other things. The process of the music, also write for orchestra, for the fun part for me, we were super quick. I think Mark and I have this in common, that one idea is more like thinking about and then to put on paper. Everything is like super quick. So we had time to rethink about, to make the stuff better. And so the final part of the opera will not, tell the end, but this is the opening with music. So there is a moment where finally the recording is happening. And after this beautiful aria that Mark wrote about the Luther, that is like a love declaration to the instrument, to his job, I had to write this big finale where the violin, who is actually a soprano, and we decided to have a soprano lirico leggero, like very with a high range. We found one for Florence, is Giulia Peruzzi, who helped me also with vocalize and everything. But the main work that I did was with my inspiration violin. That was Andrea Obiso. This is actually here tonight. I want to ask him like to be present right now. Eccolo qua, Andrea, that is in Rome.
Ciao.
So Andrea,
Ciao Roberto, ciao Mark.
Ciao.
Ciao,
Andrea
ciao.
is
Awesome.
I will introduce to Mark also Andrea. Andrea is an amazing violinist. He's an enfant prodige. He won lots of first prize around Europe, around America, everywhere. And I met him through common friends here in New York, but we are both Sicilian. And when this opportunity arrived, I asked him like to help me, to verify everything that I was writing. I am a pianist, I'm not a violinist, and I need also to listen for creative reason, Andrea. So Andrea, tell us a little bit about our experience. You were here with me.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, exactly. I remember your apartment in New York.
First,
I am
I had to
talking.
say why you are in Rome.
Yes, I am in Rome now, so I'm calling from
because
Italy.
Because you are the first violinist of the orchestra.
Because I am the concertmaster of the Orchestra Nazionale di Santa Cecilia. Here we're playing at the Auditorium Parco della Musica. So right now I'm based here. Finally, I moved 2 months ago to Rome, and and I moved actually 6 months ago from the US. And last project I had in the US was exactly this one with Roberto and Mark. And I was so intrigued to start working on reviewing some of the very tough things that he wrote in the opera, because in this finale, when finally the music comes out from the museum. By the way, I was there playing a concert with Giovanni Sollima until I think it was 2 weeks ago. So I just been there in Cremona, the Arvedi Auditorium or Stradivari hall, as they can call it. And Stefano for sure knows it better he knows the original name. Anyway, it was a fun part, because with Roberto and I, we have a specific Sicilian way of communicating, as you can imagine, and we were thinking of like, okay, so you want this violin to jump left and right for a second. We took some excerpts from concertos, from Vignaschi, from Paganini, from Ernst, and then in the end it's a burst of lyricism. So it's very, very well balanced, and we found the best ways to find this dialogue with the soprano.
So Andrea, you will play in Florence. The performance I will do like in Florence for sure, and your violin is also something important, right? Can you?
Yes, we will. I have it here with me.
Wow.
So yeah. I was just adjusting it earlier, just to underline the importance of a luthier, as you were talking before. I'm learning a lot from the luthiers I work with, so that in moments of emergency, in moments like this where you cannot really go meet someone and you need to be distant, I can follow certain instructions to adjust to the weather, because these instruments are very, very sensitive. Sensible to it's sensitive, to the weather, and so this is a Guarneri del Gesù that was made in 1741.
Wow.
Right in Cremona, right near where the museum is now, in the center. And I will be playing with this in Villa La Pietra, I hope.
Can I ask a question?
Can we say that? Can we say when the premiere will be, most likely, or around when?
Yes.
Most likely, maybe next June.
June.
Yeah.
Sure.
Crossing the eyes.
Don't say anything. Don't say anything.
Oh my God, Francesca.
Andrea, I have a question for you.
Our friends need to stay tuned about our upcoming projects. Sorry, go ahead.
Of course, yeah.
Andrea, I have a question for you. Like, when Roberto and we went with my friend Jeffrey John Davis, who's runs the Violin Channel. He arranged for us to go to the place in New York, Rare Violins. It has a strange place. To look at a luthier, look at all these beautiful violins and everything like that. And he told me, and Roberto probably already knew this, but I didn't know it, that you have a special relationship with your violin. Like he told me that sometimes people get violins and that they feel that they have bad, I would use the word karma, or they have ghosts in them or something, and they send them back. And I thought that was the most beautiful idea, to view a musical instrument as having a spirit that you have to connect with. Do you agree with that?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. That's why the idea of the character being a little bit metaphysical, if we may say, and so that it can connect to the voice of my instrument. I think it was perfectly fitting, and I think for the purpose of what was the message that Roberto and you wanted to send, I think we found the best balance within what it is too violinistic and what it is maybe more relatable to the human voice. And so, and that was the whole work that we did, basically, right, Roberto? We would find a rhythm that would fit the instrument, but as well something that you could find, a way in the middle, because somehow the part of Roberto is very hard. It requires a lot of knowledge of the instrument, but at the same time, it connects very well with the human voice, and in this finale where all the attention will be, because after the silence being the protagonist, it will be a Cremonese violin sound with a beautiful soprano. So it will be really at the same time challenging and beautiful, because it will be so rewarding.
If I may chime in for just 1 second, following up to what Mark said, but it's a question for Andrea. Do I remember correctly that there is a part inside the violin that is called anima?
Yes, exactly. Good point. I was gonna mention that. So
because
what
I
was talking about at the
remember.
Bravo.
So what Mark was saying, there is this soul inside it. And I remember when I was in high school in Cremona, the big treat was they would take us to the municipal palace before they built this beautiful violin museum that you see right behind me now, with this very sleek design. The violins, the Guarneri del Gesù and the Stradivari and so on, they were all kept in the city hall, basically where the city council gathers. And the big treat was then when you went there to see the violins, every morning, I remember this old Professor Mosconi, would go there with two guards, two municipal guards. They would open the cases, they would pull out the violins, and he would play like for 5-10 minutes. And then he explained to us that otherwise the soul, l'anima del violino altrimenti muore. Otherwise, the soul of the violin dies. I found it was so fantastic. And now when Mark was saying there is a spirit inside it, I suddenly remember this professor whose job was to play every day all these violins so that their souls would vibrate and they would stay alive. I find it extraordinary.
Yeah,
we call it an instrument, but Andrea, you know better than everybody, it's far from an instrument. It's like it has its own soul.
Yes, I maybe this is a good excuse for me to let go my emotions with this one, because this violin went through a lot before being bought 3 times and then being played. This exact violin was bought in the 1970s, and it stayed. It was in Washington for some years at the Smithsonian. It was showed at the museum, and then at some point someone else in New York, Jacques Francais, bought it for his luthier shop, so to sell it, because he found a lot of potential in this instrument to be played on. And so, but at the end of the story, basically, it wasn't played for about 30 years. And then 5.5 years ago, I had the chance to meet my sponsor in Japan that invested for many decades in instruments. And this was my first like antique instrument, let's say so, that I was playing. And so I had the luck to know an instrument that would respond a little differently than a modern violin would. Of course, right?
So you had to know the story, the life.
Exactly, and I had to adjust to it not being. Yeah, I had to adjust to it not being played, and so his resonance grew with myself and my first experiences with such a
Andrea, this is actually
violin.
The luthier aria, say, l'aria del liutaio that Mark wrote, is all about, you know, all the people that play this instrument from centuries, from war, for all the, you know, the history that passed in this violin. So it is actually beautiful what you say, because you reconnect everything what Mark wrote. So now I want to speak about this reading that we had in New York. We were so lucky because just before the pandemic attack, we had the time to have a recording that was sponsored by Paolo Martino, a lover of music, and then that he really offers his apartment, and also you know, he opened the door to do this reading. We wanted with Mark, we decided to have everything to see, you know, if everything was working, if we had to do like little changes. We couldn't play the ending because Andrea wasn't here, so we just stopped until the aria of the Luther. But we make this small video with a prologue that Mark had this beautiful idea about the prologue. Can you tell us, Mark, about the opening of the opera? That is this the mayor that start to say everybody about, you know, the to be quiet, and this is we citizen of Cremona that we ask you. So you have this idea to have this this part kind of read by everybody,
The reason for the I would call it a prologue, as you would. The reason for the prologue is to let the audience know context, to let them know what this is about. And we just have everyone come forward and read this edict by the mayor of Cremona. Of course, I made it up. And I think I remembered saying, this is very Gilbert and Sullivan. Don't give any emotion to this. It's all about the outward show of law and why this is happening. We'll get to emotion later, but let's start the opera with something
the message that the idea that you had was like my musical translation was, I don't want anybody to breathe. Like I want something to be read like from the beginning or the end, like, and oh my God, what I'm doing. And then we decide, you know, we found a solution.
Yeah,
so
and then
I want to
ways for singers to breathe. Of course singers do have to breathe.
They share the sentence between each other.
But the idea is that this is one, and by the way, it is one sentence. And
no commas.
One long sentence, no pause. Yeah, no periods, no commas. Well, lots of commas, but no periods. Yeah.
Okay, so enjoy this video, and then we can start again.
We the people of Cremona have been called on by our most beloved mayor to observe an ordinance. All excessive noise.
To the Museum of Violence while the sun does its magnificent and famous instruments are recorded
with the utmost
rigor for all time and
asset.
Noise includes, but is by no means limited to
intoning, beeping, buzzing,
whistling, shouting, clanking, clucking, meowing, ringing, giggling, etc. that might be precipitated by
construction, traffic,
ambulances, search bands,
position, slaughters,
roller skaters, fingertips, madness, or any other human situation that would compromise the quality of said recording.
This was a beautiful party. You could see from the food and everything that we had a great time. And of course, I had the opportunity to know a lot of singers that I didn't know. Mark works more than me in the New York Opera Award. So I could meet this amazing artist that, you know, they were like really learning everything in few weeks, and we had this reading at the Casa of Paolo. So the arias that we had to write, of course, there are different characters, and one of the characters that was maybe I would say that was the most difficult aria to write for me was the one that this character Giulia Albertini is actually called. She's La Signora Albertini. She's alone in her apartment, pregnant, waiting for this husband, very emotional because of the hormones, I think, also for, you know, she's ready to get birth. And when the structure of this aria is really, really beautiful, because I remember send me the text message, Mark sent me, do not write, do not start the aria, you had to talk with me, we had to speak like 2 hours about it. And it was true, because the aria is a kind of a crescendo or situation, and there are 2 arias in one. So one is it's like I would say is a schizophrenic aria. So you have one part where you have the anxious Giulia, terrified for the birth, angry about everything. So, and the other one as a mother, sweet, devoted to this son that is, his name is Federico, is coming. And so musically, to translate something like that was, you know, to write like 2 different pieces and put them together. Plus, there is not organized. Of course, everything is organized, but it's like organized chaos. So you have sometimes the angry part is longer, sometimes it's shorter, and then it's like an explosion. Then she came back to be a mother. So we have actually here Jessica Fishenfeld.
Wait. Let me go back a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Because what Roberto said is actually very, very important in that the text of this aria is, there's a radical idea going on here in the text and the music, in that the certain details of the story are delivered simply at the top. And then as you go on, the details expand, and that turns into the story. And that's never been done in opera that I know of. You know opera better than I do, Roberto, but it's a kind of a radical idea in storytelling. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing I wanted to say, where you were segueing into, is that we have the tremendous privilege of introducing Jessica Fishenfeld to sing this aria, because I had worked with Jessica on Stonewall. And Jessica is one of the most brilliant actresses I have ever met. And she can hit the notes. That's the thing. We, in this country, in America, one thing that I think has been great is that we're training our singers to not just act and to deal and to work with the text and tell a story, but to also hit the notes. So we are tremendously privileged to have Jessica with us singing this aria, because she not only hits the notes, but she hits the text notes. She tells the story to an audience in the most brilliant way. Where are you, Jessica?
Thank you, Mark. Can you see me?
Jessica.
Yeah, like a vision.
Wow, what an introduction. That was very kind of you to say.
Sorry.
I mean, it was, you should be sorry. No, it was such a pleasure to sing in the reading, not only Julia, but Valentina as well. And the intro piece that you all have seen by this point, I had to sing both parts. And so I was jumping between two lines and filling in the gaps. So that was an interesting challenge unto itself. But I so enjoyed discovering these characters, and you have such a small time to be able to create this entire character within just one aria. But I think you both teamed up to give me so much to work with in that, the schizophrenic nature of it completely encompasses how one would feel in this situation. You don't feel one way for that long of a time. I think depending on what I'm thinking about, I think about the husband. I think about, oh, I'm so mad at him, but I love him. But, oh, my child, oh, I have to comfort him and I have to do some sweeping. And I imagine that if I were in that situation, my brain would be in a million places at once. And I think that this aria is a perfect example of how that would manifest. So this is Giulia's aria, No Federico, No, in which she, in the middle of doing some housework, Julia, very, very pregnant, which I think you will all notice in the scene, is suddenly feeling bigger than normal kicks from Federico, and she gets a little bit nervous because she's by herself in her house. Her husband is on a business trip. She's in this town where she has to be quiet, and everyone knows that when you're pregnant, there's nothing quiet about it, especially when you think you're about to be giving birth. So here we go.
Federico, it's not the time to make your bow. screaming, shrieking, wailing. And I'm supposed to be quiet. I hate the whole of the world, and I hate violins. I'm unprepared, alone, and scared. And my patience is growing the thinnest. Darling Federico, dearest Federico, you can be anything you want in life. A butcher, a baker, a murderer. But never, 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 ever a violinist!
She is fantastic.
My God, I just love working with her. I really do.
Me too, and thanks for bringing her in our project.
Oh,
So now,
that was an easy decision.
now is we hope to listen to this opera that we put so much love and fun, like all the emotion to write this opera, and it was a lot of fun to write, but also so we are really waiting to listen the entire production with an orchestration and the setting and the costumes, and of course amazing artists playing. So Mark, do you want to say something to conclude the evening?
To conclude the evening, well, I'd like to, because I'm a writer, I'm all about structure. But something that Stefano said at the beginning really was quite beautiful, and I think it connects everything with what we've been saying, is that opera is alive and kicking. It's not a dead art form. As long as we tell relevant stories relevant to how we are living now, and they can be comic stories, they can be lyrical stories. We're still lyrical in spite of everything, all the horror in the world right now. I really love what Stefano said, that new opera is extremely important. And that connects us with Francesca and the Center for Contemporary Opera, that their mission, and the mission of many opera companies in this country and around the world, is to keep opera going, because the potential of words and music is something in terms of art that can keep us going and keep us enduring during these difficult times. Right now, it's been really hard for the last 9-10 months for opera singers, for musicians, for everyone that is involved in opera. And it is the most collaborative art form. That's one reason I love it so much. It's been really difficult for us because we've had our lifeline cut out of us. Singers especially, suddenly we're getting emails like, oh no, that's canceled, that's canceled, that's canceled. And it's really difficult for us until we find a vaccine, which looks pretty soon, I think. I want to encourage everyone to support opera singers, opera companies, as much as they can. It's a really hard time for us, and opera is essential. You all may think that, oh, it's not as essential as food, or it's not as essential as rent. No, opera is essential. The combination of the voice, of music, of text, I put text last, which is not appropriate, but is something that we need now. And so, gosh, just support opera until we get over this moment. And I think we will get over this moment.
I mean, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Roberto. I mean, you both are such a wonderful human beings, but in particular, you are beautiful artists. And then what is really important to add to this perfect sentence that you, Mark, just said, is that we are not artists. We do need you, because we need creative people in our life. We need to feed our life and emotion with the music and with the stories. And then today we have this fantastic opportunity that is the new music that living composer and living librettist can write for us to start to dream again and to see the hope after this pandemic. And as CCO, we will be ready because I really believe that there will be a renaissance in arts after this difficult moment. But even during this difficult moment, all of us are doing our diligence. We're all working so hard behind the scene, because we will be ready to give again emotion to people, to gathering again together, go to the Casa Italiana that will host again and again events, not online, but in person event. And then we can wait finally to feel these emotions. And then we are preparing we are doing everything is possible to maintain our companies alive. And then, as Mark said, we really need the support of everyone, not just the opera lovers. We need the help of the entire community, because as you see, behind a project like this one, there is so much going on. There is so much beautiful messages behind that we do need to help for those projects, not only be created and commissioned, but also being produced at one point. And we will look forward to this in New York City and the rest of the United States. And I hope that this project will go around in this country and also in Europe, of course, where we'll premiere probably next year. So thanks a lot to all of you. And thanks Casa Italiana, Stefano Albertini and his team to host this event and partnering with me. It's not the only event we had been together, but this is probably the closest to my heart. And then I hope that Stefano will tell us what is the conclusion of this beautiful panel. Thanks to the artist. Jessica is a wonderful, beautiful artist with a fantastic voice. And then Andrea is also an artist. I'm as well a Sicilian, so I'm close to this kind of language with Roberto and Andrea. We share this the land where we born. So Stefano, thank you so much.
Thank you, Francesca. I think that after Mark's statement, there is very little we can add. If not that now we really want to see Sweet Silence. It's gonna premiere hopefully this coming summer, on a date that is very close to me, in the fantastic surrounding of Villa La Pietra. And I thank my colleagues, Larry Wolf and Perry Klaas, the directors of NOE in Florence, for commissioning this work. And so I can only tell you, I hope to see you all in Florence for Sweet Silence in Cremona. And thanks to Roberto, Mark, Francesca, Jessica, and Andrea for being with us tonight for a great panel. Thank you.
Ciao.